If he's not texting, it's not because he lost his phone, forgot, or got too busy. His silence is a message, and it's louder than any words he could ever say. But the question isn't about why he's silent. The real question is why you're giving so much energy to someone who isn't reciprocating. Right now, your mind is searching for answers, replaying past conversations, dissecting every little thing you said or did, wondering if you missed a sign, if you pushed too hard, or if you should have done something differently. But the truth is, when someone values you, there is no guessing, no analyzing, no wondering. When a man truly wants to connect with you, he will make it known. He won't risk losing your presence by being inconsistent, and he won't create confusion through his silence. This is something many people struggle to accept because the mind naturally looks for an explanation that fits its emotional needs. You want to believe that maybe he's just overwhelmed, maybe something happened at work, maybe he's afraid of his feelings. But at the end of the day, communication is not complicated. It's a choice. And silence is also a choice. Right now, you might be staring at your phone, checking it every few minutes, waiting for that notification to pop up. You might be resisting the urge to send another text, to convincing yourself that maybe he didn't see the last one. Your heart races every time your phone lights up, only to feel disappointed when it's not him. This cycle is exhausting, but it's one that you've unconsciously created by giving too much of your power away. The more you dwell on his lack of response, the more you feed the emotional attachment, making his absence feel even heavier. Your mind is playing tricks on you, trying to fill in the blanks, creating scenarios to justify his silence. But what if you stopped? What if instead of overanalyzing, you simply accepted what is? When you step back and observe reality as it is, not how you wish it to be, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. The truth is, if a man genuinely values your presence, he will not put himself in a position to lose you. It really is that simple. Think about it. If you reverse the roles and you truly liked someone, would you go days without reaching out? Would you leave them wondering where they stand with you? Would you risk letting them drift away? No. When you care about someone, you make an effort. You prioritize them. You don't let them sit in confusion. So, when you're on the receiving end of silence, instead of making excuses for it, acknowledge it for what it is. It's a reflection of his priorities, not of your worth. But the problem isn't just his silence. It's the way you've conditioned yourself to react to it. Right now, you might feel anxious, rejected, or even angry. These emotions aren't a result of his actions. They're a result of your attachment to an outcome that isn't unfolding the way you wanted it to. You're giving your emotional state over to someone who hasn't even considered how their absence is affecting you. That's where the real problem lies. You need to understand that your reaction to his silence is entirely within your control. It's not about him, it's about you. Why does his lack of response have the power to shake you so deeply? Why does his absence make you question yourself? The answer isn't in him. It's in the way you've been conditioned to tie your self-worth to external validation. You've been taught that attention equals value, that a man's effort defines how desirable you are, that if he's pulling away, you must have done something wrong. But what if you reframe the entire situation? What if, instead of seeing his silence as rejection, you see it as clarity? What if, instead of chasing a response, you take his lack of effort as the only answer you need? Suddenly, the energy shifts. Instead of waiting, instead of hoping, instead of replaying past conversations, you recognize that the only thing left to do is refocus on yourself. The moment you stop reacting to his silence is the moment you reclaim your power. You no longer let his lack of effort dictate your emotional state. You no longer sit in a space of waiting, of hoping for something to change. Instead, you become indifferent to the outcome because you recognize that the right person will never leave you in a state of confusion. The mind always seeks closure, but sometimes the closure is in the silence itself. Instead of questioning it, embrace it. Instead of resisting it, allow it to show you what you need to see. Because the sooner you accept reality as it is, the sooner you free yourself from the emotional prison of waiting on someone who was never fully invested in the first place. The more you focus on his lack of communication, the more you give away your power. Every time you check your phone, every time you reread old messages, every time you wonder what he's doing or why he's not reaching out, you are investing energy into something that is draining you rather than fulfilling you. Your thoughts have become fixated on a question that has no real answer. Why isn't he texting? But the deeper issue isn't his silence. It's the way your mind has become consumed by it. Your energy flows where your attention goes. And right now, your attention is locked onto someone who is not reciprocating. The moment you start obsessing over why someone isn't responding, you enter a cycle of emotional dependency. You become attached to the idea of them reaching out, as if their message will somehow bring you peace, as if their effort will validate your worth. But what if it never comes? What if he continues to be distant? Will you allow that to dictate how you feel about yourself? You have to understand that this isn't about him. It's about you. It's about how much control you're allowing someone else to have over your emotional state. The reason his silence bothers you so much is because on some level, you've tied your sense of importance to his actions. You're seeking confirmation that you matter. And when he doesn't respond, it creates a sense of insecurity within you. But that insecurity isn't a reflection of your true worth. It's a reflection of where you've been placing your focus. Think about this for a moment. Before you met him, before you exchanged messages, before you got attached to the idea of what he could be in your life, you were whole. You didn't need his validation, his attention, or his words to feel complete. So what changed? What made you shift from being in control of your own emotions to depending on a text message to feel valued? The answer lies in the way you've allowed your focus to drift away from yourself. You have been pouring energy into a situation that isn't pouring back into you. It's like watering a dead plant and expecting it to bloom. The more you invest in someone who isn't investing in you, the more drained you become. And the more drained you become, the more desperate you feel. And desperation never attracts the outcome you desire. It only repels it. When you focus too much on why he's not texting, you start to create false narratives in your mind. You tell yourself he's busy, that maybe he's just overwhelmed, that he'll eventually come around, but deep down you feel the truth. You just don't want to accept it. And the truth is, when someone truly values you, they make an effort. They don't leave you wondering. They don't create confusion. They don't make you question where you stand. So instead of sitting in a space of waiting, instead of feeding thoughts that weaken you, redirect your energy. If you catch yourself reaching for your phone, put it down. If you find yourself overanalyzing the situation, stop. If you feel tempted to send another message just to see if he'll respond, resist. Because every time you act from a place of lack, you reinforce the belief that you need his response to feel good again. But you don't. You never did. The only way to break free from this emotional cycle is to take your attention off him and bring it back to yourself. What happens when you stop wondering, when you stop waiting, when you stop searching for answers that don't exist? What happens when you channel that energy into something that actually benefits you? You reclaim your power. You remind yourself that you are in control. You shift from being reactive to being intentional. Every moment you spend thinking about him is a moment you could be spending on yourself. Every ounce of energy you pour into his absence is energy that could be used to build yourself up instead of breaking yourself down. And when you start to focus on yourself, on your goals, your happiness, your growth, something powerful happens. You stop seeking attention from those who don't freely give it. You stop craving validation from those who don't see your worth. You stop feeling anxious over situations that no longer serve you. The energy you give out is the energy you attract. When you dwell in a space of neediness, of longing, of insecurity, you pull more of those emotions into your life. But when you shift your focus, when you place your energy into self-improvement, into things that bring you joy, into people who actually value you, you start to create a reality that aligns with your true worth. Silence from someone you care about can feel like rejection. But what if it's not about you at all? What if his lack of communication has nothing to do with your worth, your value, or anything you did wrong? The human mind has a tendency to personalize situations, to take someone's actions or inactions as a direct reflection of ourselves. But in reality, people act based on their own priorities, their own desires, and their own level of emotional maturity. Right now, you might be sitting in a space of uncertainty, feeling like you need answers. The silence feels unbearable because it leaves room for doubt, and doubt leads to overthinking. Maybe you're wondering if he's lost interest. Maybe you think you did something to push him away. Maybe you're even questioning whether you were ever important to him in the first place. These thoughts are exhausting and they keep you trapped in a cycle of self-doubt. But take a step back. Instead of assuming his silence means something negative about you, consider a different perspective. People communicate when they want to and they prioritize what they value. If he's not reaching out, it may simply mean that you are not his priority at this moment. That's not an insult to you. It's a reflection of where he is mentally, emotionally, or even physically. The mistake most people make is internalizing this as rejection, when in reality, it's just clarity. If a man is interested, he will make it known. He will not leave you wondering. He will not allow confusion to exist because he will want you to know where you stand. Silence is a decision. Just like communication is a decision. It's not always about someone playing games or being intentionally distant. It's about what they feel is worth their time and effort. And if he is choosing not to communicate, you have to allow that choice to be the answer you're looking for. This is where most people struggle. The silence feels uncomfortable, and instead of accepting it, they try to fill it. They send another message, they look for signs, they try to re-engage the connection in some way. But what they don't realize is that chasing after someone who isn't communicating only reinforces the power imbalance. The more you try to pull someone closer, the more they resist. It's human nature. People are drawn to confidence and certainty, not neediness and desperation. You need to shift your mindset from why isn't he texting me to why am I allowing this to affect me so deeply? The real issue isn't that he's silent. The issue is that his silence has the power to shake you. And that only happens when you've unknowingly placed your happiness in someone else's hands. When your emotions become dependent on how someone treats you, you give away your ability to control your own peace. Instead of focusing on what he's not doing, focus on what you need to do for yourself. You cannot force someone to communicate and you cannot control how they feel. But what you can control is your own response. The moment you stop reacting to his silence is the moment you regain your sense of self. Is the moment you recognize that your worth is not determined by a text message, a phone call, or someone else's level of interest. Think about how much mental energy you have spent wondering about him. How many hours have been wasted replaying conversations in your head, trying to figure out what went wrong? How much emotional energy have you given to someone who isn't even thinking about you in the same way? Now imagine if all of that energy was redirected. Imagine if instead of waiting for a text that may never come, you poured that energy into yourself, your goals, your passions, your personal growth. Imagine how much further ahead you would be if you focused on your own happiness instead of waiting for someone else to provide it. You have to train yourself to be okay with uncertainty. You have to learn to sit with silence without letting it shake your confidence. The people who are meant to be in your life will not leave you guessing. They will not make you question your worth. They will not allow you to feel like an option. And those who do, they are showing you exactly where they stand. If you find yourself struggling with his silence, remind yourself that it's not about you. It's about him, his priorities, his choices, his level of investment. Instead of searching for validation, remind yourself that no amount of waiting, no amount of hoping, and no amount of overanalyzing will change the truth. The only thing you can do is shift your attention back to yourself. When someone goes silent, the first thing your mind does is try to fill in the gaps. It starts searching for explanations, reasons, justifications, anything that will make sense of the situation. You replay past conversations, analyzing every little detail, looking for clues that might explain why he suddenly stopped responding. You wonder if you said something wrong, if you should have done something differently, if there was a moment you missed that signaled his interest was fading. The problem with this type of thinking is that it's rooted in insecurity. It assumes that his lack of communication must be a reflection of something you did or didn't do. But that's not necessarily the case. People's actions are a reflection of their priorities, their emotional capacity, and their own internal struggles. If he's not texting you, it's not always because you made a mistake. Sometimes it's because he's dealing with something personal. Other times it's because he's distracted by something else in his life. And in many cases, it's because he simply isn't prioritizing the connection in the same way you are. This doesn't mean you're not valuable. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means that right now, his actions or lack of action are revealing his true level of investment. But instead of accepting that, many people try to fight it. They send another text just to check in. They look for excuses to reestablish communication. They convince themselves that if they just say the right thing, he'll suddenly realize how much he wants to talk. This is an emotional trap because it puts all the power in his hands. It turns the situation into a waiting game, one where you're constantly hoping he'll respond, that he'll say the words you need to hear to feel secure again. The reality is, when someone is genuinely interested, they don't make you question it. They don't disappear for days or weeks without explanation. They don't leave you hanging, wondering if they'll ever reach out again. They don't create a space where you feel like you have to chase them for clarity. And if that's what's happening, you have to be willing to accept the truth instead of making excuses for them. The problem is that your mind doesn't want to accept the truth because the truth is uncomfortable. It's easier to believe that he's just busy, that he's overwhelmed, that he'll eventually come around. It's easier to cling to the hope that maybe he just needs time, that maybe if you wait long enough, he'll start texting again. But hope without evidence is just self-deception. If someone truly values you, they don't put you in a position where you have to guess their feelings. They make it clear through consistent effort. So what do you do when you find yourself overthinking? How do you break free from the cycle of waiting, hoping, and questioning? The answer is simple, but not easy. You have to shift your focus away from him and back onto yourself. Instead of using your energy to analyze his silence, use it to build yourself up. Instead of looking for signs that he still cares, remind yourself that you deserve someone who doesn't make you question where you stand. Instead of waiting for a message, take control of your own happiness. Overthinking is a habit, and like any habit, it can be broken. The key is to become aware of it when it's happening and consciously redirect your thoughts. When you catch yourself spiraling into analysis mode, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this line of thinking serving me? Is this making me feel empowered, or is it making me feel weak? If the answer is that it's draining you, then it's time to stop. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to figure out what's going on in his mind. What you need is to remind yourself that you are in control of your own emotions. Your peace of mind is more important than decoding his behavior. Your self-worth is not up for debate. And the more you let go of the need to understand why he's not texting, the more you reclaim your power. The truth is, you will never be confused by someone who genuinely wants to be in your life. Their actions will always make it clear, and when someone is unclear, when their silence leaves you guessing, that is your answer. You don't need to investigate further. You don't need to fill in the blanks. You just need to recognize that someone who values you will never put you in a position where you feel the need to overthink in the first place. The mind is a powerful thing. When someone isn't texting you back, your thoughts start running in circles, trying to make sense of the silence. You start creating stories in your head, scenarios that explain why he's not responding. Maybe he lost his phone. Maybe he's overwhelmed with work. Maybe he's waiting for you to reach out first. The mind doesn't like uncertainty, so it fills in the blanks, even if those blanks aren't based on reality. But what happens when those thoughts become obsessive? What happens when you check your phone every few minutes, hoping for a notification that never comes? This is where emotions take control. And when emotions are in control, logic disappears. Instead of seeing things as they are, you see things through the lens of anxiety, fear, and insecurity. You start thinking, did I do something wrong? Did I say too much? Was I too available? You begin analyzing every little detail of your last conversation, looking for clues. You reread old messages, searching for signs that maybe he was losing interest all along, but you just didn't notice. This kind of thinking is dangerous because it makes you feel powerless. It places your sense of worth in someone else's hands. It turns you into a person who needs validation from someone who isn't even giving you their attention. And the worst part, the more you overthink, the more you sink into negative emotions. The silence starts feeling like rejection. The lack of response starts feeling like abandonment. And before you know it, you're not just upset that he hasn't texted. You're questioning your own value. But here's what you have to understand. His silence is not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of him. It's a reflection of his priorities, his choices, and his level of emotional investment. People make time for what matters to them. They don't forget to text someone they truly care about. They don't get too busy to check in with someone who is important to them. If someone wants to talk to you, they will. If they don't, they won't. It's really that simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. Because the truth hurts when it's not the answer you wanted. This is why emotional discipline is so important. When your mind starts spiraling, you have to take control. You have to remind yourself that your happiness does not depend on whether or not he texts. Your confidence should not be shaken by someone else's inconsistency. And most importantly, you have to stop placing your self-worth in someone else's hands. Think about how much energy you're giving to someone who isn't even thinking about you in the same way. Think about how much time you've wasted waiting for a message, checking your phone, hoping for a response. Now imagine if you redirected all of that energy into yourself. Imagine if instead of waiting, you focused on becoming the best version of yourself. Imagine if you took all of that emotional energy and used it to build your confidence, your goals, and your own sense of self-worth. Because here's the truth. The moment you stop caring about his silence is the moment you take back your power. The moment you stop overanalyzing is the moment you regain control of your emotions. And the moment you decide that you don't need his attention to feel good about yourself is the moment you set yourself free. Overcoming this mindset isn't easy, but it's necessary. You have to train yourself to think differently. Instead of seeing his silence as rejection, see it as redirection. Instead of wondering why he's not texting, ask yourself why you're waiting. Instead of focusing on what he's not doing, focus on what you should be doing for yourself. One of the most powerful things you can do is shift your focus. The more you focus on what's missing, the more you'll feel its absence. But the more you focus on yourself, your happiness, your goals, and your own sense of peace, the less his actions will affect you. You don't need someone to text you to feel valuable. You don't need validation from someone who isn't making an effort. You need to remind yourself that you are whole, with or without a message from him. When you learn to detach emotionally, you become untouchable. His silence no longer affects you because you've built yourself up so much that nothing outside of you has the power to shake you. And that is the real goal, not to get him to text back, but to get yourself to a place where it doesn't even matter. There is a moment when everything changes. It's the moment you stop waiting, the moment you stop hoping, the moment you stop letting someone else's inconsistency dictate your emotions. This is the moment when you reclaim your power. Because up until now, his silence has had control over you. Every time you checked your phone, every time you replayed old conversations in your mind, every time you questioned yourself, you were giving away your power. And the more you gave, the more drained you felt. The more you analyzed, the more confused you became. The more you waited, the more you forgot your own worth. But then something shifts. You realize that you don't have to live like this. You don't have to spend your days wondering if he'll text back. You don't have to let someone else's lack of communication create turmoil in your mind. You don't have to keep handing over your peace to someone who isn't even present. Because the truth is, if he wanted to be here, he would be. If he wanted to talk to you, he would. If he cared about how you felt, he wouldn't leave you questioning. And once you accept that, once you truly understand it, something inside of you clicks. You stop fighting reality. You stop making excuses. You stop waiting. When you stop waiting, you start living. Suddenly, you have energy again. Energy to focus on yourself. Energy to invest in your own happiness. Energy to become the kind of person who is so secure, so fulfilled, so completely at peace that nothing and no one has the power to shake you. And the irony? The moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop caring is the moment you become more attractive. Because now you radiate confidence. Now you have an energy that is unbothered, unattached, and completely in control. Now you are the one who is unreachable. And that's when the tables turn. The reason silence affects you so deeply is because it triggers something within you. It brings up old wounds, feelings of being abandoned, ignored, or not good enough. This is why it hurts. It's not just about the message that never came. It's about the deeper belief that maybe you're not worthy of consistency. Maybe you're not worth the effort. Maybe you're not enough. But that is a lie. That is the voice of insecurity, the voice of past experiences, the voice of fear. And that voice has controlled you for far too long. It's time to challenge that voice. It's time to ask yourself, why do I need this person's validation? Why do I feel like their attention defines my value? Why do I believe that I am only worthy if they acknowledge me? The answer is, you don't. You have always been enough. You have always been valuable. You have always been worthy of love, attention, and effort. And the fact that someone is not showing up for you the way you deserve has nothing to do with your worth. It has everything to do with them. You have to decide right now that you will no longer allow someone else's actions to control your emotions. You have to decide that you will no longer settle for inconsistency. You have to decide that you will no longer participate in this cycle of overthinking, waiting, and hoping. Because the second you decide that, everything changes. The moment you say, I am done with this, you break free. And when you break free, you become untouchable. This is not about revenge. This is not about playing games. This is not about trying to manipulate the situation so he suddenly realizes what he lost. This is about you. This is about getting to a place where his silence no longer bothers you because you're too focused on yourself. This is about understanding that the right person will never put you in a position where you have to question your worth. This is about choosing yourself fully and unapologetically. When you shift your focus back to yourself, you start to remember who you are. You start to remember what makes you happy, what excites you, what fuels your soul. You start to get support. Feel full of what makes you happy, what excites you, what fuels your soul. You start to invest in yourself the way you were investing in him. And as you do that, something incredible happens. You no longer care whether or not he texts. You no longer feel the need to check your phone every few minutes. You no longer feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on you, because now you are free. Freedom comes when you detach. Freedom comes when you let go. Freedom comes when you realize that you were never meant to chase anyone. The right people will always choose you. The right people will always show up. The right people will never leave you feeling confused. And anyone who makes you feel otherwise, they were never meant to stay.